Hello, and we are live. Hi out there, YouTube audience. So Caroline let me know that she's got, I'll say, an amazing issue just to give her some manifestation of good stuff coming down the pike for her. She's been working on a mobile home property where I believe she did buy it. It came with all kinds of issues. It had a tenant who had been a longstanding tenant for a long time. Now she's got to deal with them saying, hey, we were actually awarded this property through a trust that was set up after the previous trust where everything was recorded through. So Caroline will be here. She's just managing these things with her attorney. And this is why having the right paperwork, the right insurance coverage is going to be important, because it's the one time, especially on the title insurance stuff, because she already closed on this property. It's the one time like you're going to have to maybe use it, and it's going to be significant. So I can't say never, but I never intend to never buy title insurance, if that makes sense. Um, Anywho, with us today will be Caleb Christopher of creativetc.io. He was one of the very first people that I really started doing business with him and trusting him with my transactions. Caleb and his team have done a ton of deals with me and taking care of all the paperwork. So if you're here, make sure you're telling us where you are in the chat, that you're squatting up, you're working together. Our goal is to create a very big impact to our community. And the point of these podcasts is for all of you guys to go out there and have questions and don't know what next steps to take. Please, please, please leverage that chat. And that's why we bring experts like Caleb Christopher, so that when you ask a question, it's a well-rounded answer with people's different perspectives and different experiences, providing that feedback for you, and you can tailor it to yourself. So thank you all for being here. Hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. I know that I had my share of way too many goodies, but we're excited to end the year strong. I have 2 closings tomorrow, one property I'm buying, another one that I facilitated helping them close. So more of a consultant in the deal. So that was interesting. And kind of like what you want to do with paper might be good for us to cover that with paperwork with Caleb. And then a couple of housekeeping things, just to remind you that we do this every week for the hopes to provide you value. And if you could help support us by subscribing and liking the episodes, we would really surely appreciate that. And also just a reminder that in every description of these videos, we put tons of resources in there for you. So make sure to check it out when it's free, when you can, and you'll find all kinds of goodies and resources made available for you. But with that, I'm going to bring onto the studio Mr. Caleb Christopher. Hey, Caleb.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I know this is a long time coming. We've done business. Since I think I started doing transactions. And I
You've
know
seen me
you're
since I was a little baby TC.
a little baby TC. Of course, I met Caleb in the SubTo community. So it's very fun to. I'll say you're a great debater. Would you agree with that? Would you
Yeah,
say in
if
another
you just
life?
say I ask critical questions. I'm not
Yes,
satisfied with partial answers. That's
for
definitely
sure.
so. When somebody teaches on something, I'm like, okay, but what about this other thing? Because you just made a catch-all statement, and I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
catch-all is the appropriate. So people are like, why aren't you an attorney? I'm like, I don't want those handcuffs.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
don't want those regulations.
What's funny is that I was just a studies major. I actually thought I was going to be an attorney. So
Yeah.
interesting. I'm
I've
going to
had
say
plenty of
hello to a
debates with
few people.
attorneys, and some of them are too stiff, and it's like not worth the hassle. But other times, it's pretty easy to win through just plain reading of the contract and comparing
Yeah,
clauses. Like, this is what has to happen. Is
yeah,
it? Are you disputing this? Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess not.
yeah. I've been watching a ton of Suits, so everything is a legal
The
thing for
show.
me right now. That show Suits,
Yeah.
Harvey and Spencer and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can't think of all the names right now. All I want are the dresses though that Donna and Jessica Pearson wear. Like their dresses are amazing. I'm sure you thought the same thing,
I do
Caleb,
not need
but
those.
but hey, thank you guys for getting engaged in the chat. Hey, Kat, nice to see you. Reina, Gustavo, Pedro, Giselle, a Juice Tuggle. That's an interesting name. Um, Lisa, Robert. So, obviously, if you guys are aware of Caleb, he's a wealth of knowledge. Again, he's like, why aren't you an attorney, right? Because that's just sort of the perspective he takes on things. Very studious about it. And so, if you guys have questions, we're so excited to be able to answer them. But Caleb, walk us through a little bit of your journey because obviously, beyond just being a transaction coordinator, it's a business. So it's not, so for me, I divided up into two things, right? There's the skill set. So understanding your responsibility, what you're accountable for.
Yeah.
I think I heard some crazy stat that if you use a transaction coordinator, the chances of your I'll say wholesale because traditional deals tend to close, but on the wholesale side of things, you're 70% more likely to close if you have a TC. So I like those odds.
And the
Um,
debater side of me says unvalidated number, but it's nice to hear. And
well,
I can
this
validate with some experience that we've saved deals. I don't know if it's 7 out of 10 that succeed as opposed to 4 or 5 out of 10, but yeah,
yeah.
we have definitely saved deals.
For sure. And then the other side of that is the business running, right? Like, how do you systematize your business? Because you have to be able to scale, being able to serve so many investors, making sure people have the customer service they're looking for. Maybe you're an antsy pantsy person like me, and I'm like, Caleb, I need this question answered now. You're like, dude, nothing's going to go on fire yet. Give me a night to sleep, Ingrid. Like, I'll answer your question in the morning.
You
So,
ask good questions
anywho,
though, and I appreciate
um,
it. I appreciate people who drive me to be more excellent.
oh, I love that.
So
That's great.
as that sounds like a sucker punch. It might come across as a sucker punch. It's not. I really do appreciate hard questions. Even if I don't have the answer, stump me. Please stump me because I need to find the answer to that question. And if I haven't considered that question, then shame on me. For
Yeah,
my role, shame on me.
yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. So how did you get started in making your own business? Like what were you doing and how did you get here, Caleb?
Yeah. I have a history. I used to be in prison for about 5 years as an employee, by the way. Yeah. I was working in prison
You
as a
scared me for a
guard.
moment. I was like, wait, you were in prison? I was like, holy, what the heck? How were you able to create all those children if you were
And
in
you're
prison?
working with people's finances?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I was a guard for 5.5 years. I learned a lot of critical communication skills. A lot of like, hey, here's
Oh,
man,
prison guard.
yeah,
For real.
high stakes communications, right?
Oh, got it.
So you learn to communicate with difficult people there. And that has definitely, as I'm taking applicants, we've had over 400 applicants in the last 40 days as I'm hiring people.
Wow.
Okay. One of those things that we learned is those critical communication, de-escalation. How do you handle different people? How do you get to the bottom of an issue? And so we're looking for those sorts of skills. And what we're looking for is transferable skills. And
Hmm.
so when somebody applies, I'm like, I don't care what industry you come from. In fact, I value a variety of past experience. Bring it in. But
Hmm.
how does your past experience translate into my clients being served well? You asking good questions, you drilling into the stuff.
Hmm.
Like, what transferable skills do you have? And so the prison guard stuff for me, absolutely, is transferable skills. So I did that. I did construction, so I'm familiar with the insides of houses and the process. And then I started into cybersecurity, so I'm familiar with risk management. I did IT
Hmm.
and cybersecurity for like 8 years, and I didn't like being a small business owner with cybersecurity because
Mm.
it's just hard for me to convince people to come off of several $1,000s because I was only marketing to small businesses. And
Mm.
as a small business person myself, I'm like, I wouldn't spend that much money, but Caleb's kind of cheap, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
So, and you just project that people are like you. So I project that other people are cheap. And so I'm not the best sales rep. And so if I had to be my own sales rep, it wasn't good. Whereas when it came to real estate, I was able to drink from the fire hose, join the SubTo community, watched like 2/3 of the entire vault at the time, which was still thousands of hours.
Hmm.
And just, I actually secretly on a public channel. I found a downloader, downloaded the videos so I could watch them at 3x speed. The only reason I watched at 2x was because I couldn't watch at 3x. But that's me. I just I have to learn all the things. And I've taken personality tests, so I understand that about me is I can't stop digging. In
Yeah.
fact, I get bored of things if I figure them out. And so real estate still has
Are
me
we the
learning.
same person? Like
Oh,
that's me for sure. Like I have a history of getting promoted at work like every 2 years because once I master something, I get bored of it.
yeah.
Which is
Dang, I don't
why
know
I
where
love real estate. There's
I don't know where
so
my
many
my fist bump went, but tiny
oh.
high five for that. I was
No, I
looking for
love
the
it.
fist bump one because that one's funnier. Oh
Uh,
well.
that's interesting. That's something about my personality
Yeah,
where
and so real estate, there's so much to learn. And so when I got into that, I bring the risk management, I bring critical communication skills. I was an Excel whiz, like I just like doing stuff. So I built an underwriting calculator that hundreds of people use on the regular basis. And so I just brought a bunch of stuff together, and I'm like, I'm going to call it transaction management. Coordination is one thing. That's
Mhm,
administrative assistant. That's making sure the people are connected and yeah, connecting things. Uh, and I'm going to push that TC for my company stands for consultants because we're going to be actively asking you a question, gut checking your deal. Like, does your math really add up? We helped somebody save a deal. They paid us a deposit and in less than 24 hours canceled the deal before they deposited their EMD. They were the buyer, the wholesale buyer. And I was like, are your PMLs really going to fund this? Are you really going to cash flow? Let's look at these numbers. And we stayed up late working on this thing. And in the morning, they were like, no, I got to cancel. And I'm like, so what about our deposit? And he's like, you guys saved me $5,000. Keep it.
that's fantastic.
And that was
That's
a bad salesman
fantastic.
in me saying like, do you need your deposit back? But no, we provided the value.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, honestly, people get paid for that kind of, access and support in terms of providing feedback.
Yeah.
That's something I've actually been asked to do. I don't have the time commitment for it right now,
I can
where
tell
it's
you on
like
this side, there's not that much money in being a consultant unless you can scale it and build a whole team of, and that's
for
where I'm at right
sure,
now
100%. Well, it was
because
more
nobody
like
wants to give equity.
yeah.
They just want to pay a little fee.
No, no, and I really mean like hourly coaching, like focused on that kind of coaching so you can help people with their underwriting, but you can dedicate time to them for that. But yeah,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I told my
And then
sales guy I wouldn't talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. We were just looking at write-ups. We do write-ups, help assist with your write-ups, right? Especially if you're
meaning
new.
you're writing the contracts for someone.
I'm going to differentiate and say we suggest content and you take the contract and go get it signed. We'll
Okay, cool.
facilitate the DocuSign. We'll pre-fill the blanks, but they're editable by you. It's a consultation. You tell us what you're looking to do. We'll
Mm,
suggest content and say it's yours. You sign a
yeah.
release, not an attorney, not a CPA, blah, blah, blah. Here's the
Mhm,
document if you want it. So that's our service. And
mhm,
so that's pre-escrow because if you don't have a signed contract, you don't have a deal.
mhm.
But we're consultative through that process. That's where we help gut check your underwriting, and we've been charging people for seller walkthroughs, like Q&A sessions with agents and anybody and their mom, and they're a bit cantankerous. But I realized I should stop nickel and diming people for the walkthrough and just hire somebody who's experienced with it to do the walkthrough on every single write-up because that's going to result in more closed deals. I don't have to take a JV fee every time. I'll get paid by doing more transaction management. Like this is me as a business owner being like,
I was just gonna say this is
Epiphany,
a
that's going to pay for
business
itself.
owner thing.
Yeah,
Exactly,
that's
exactly.
going to pay for itself. And the clients are going to be happier. Everybody's going to have a better experience if let me just throw it in instead of charging separate for it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's one of those things where you experiment and you figure out what is going to make a successful transaction. So what should evolve
Yeah.
into it. So
Yeah. And
I've been on this side where I've seen you evolve, right? Like you weren't a TC, you became a TC. You started creating some of the fundamentals, like you were actually helping when there was no one helping
yeah,
to put all the available contracts and documents together so it was easier to you were like the Tanisha, but for
for
documents, because
paperwork. Yeah.
Tanisha
I've
does
never,
it for
nobody's
our
ever said
both.
that, but you're right. And
Yeah.
just Giselle, yes, if you're in SubTo, search Caleb Christopher Seller Finance in the SubTo Facebook group, and you'll find the calculator with a video. I get a couple of requests every week for people for edit access, and I'm like, no, watch the video, make a copy. But
Uh,
yeah, so I saw
mhm,
opportunities and gaps in the community, and I'm like, I I'm going to lead with value because I learned
mhm,
by teaching. So when I
mhm.
asked for resources, nobody had them. I'm like, I'm going to go build them, and I'm going to give them back to the community.
That's very cool. Mine is not as sophisticated as yours, but I saw the same thing with the entry, like the entry fee, like I was like, I can codify this Pace thing. Pace keeps talking about the 7 entry
The
fees.
7
So I was
parts,
like,
yeah. So credit to him.
just 7 things. And so I created like a really simple spreadsheet for people to just type them in. But for sure, like yours is very comprehensive. So
But I
it
like to
was
think
pretty
it's
cool.
also simple because there are some that are more comprehensive, but you have to do all the blanks in order to get the outcome that you're looking for. Where mine is
Yeah.
designed for like you can underwrite live on the phone with somebody and say, "Hang on just a second, let me plug in some numbers." Boom. Yeah, this is going to work for me. Like it should be usable like that. Can we also touch on cash to close versus entry fee? That
Yeah,
drives me
let's do it.
nuts.
Okay.
People talk about cash to close. Yeah, so that's how much cash you have to bring to the closing to close the deal and start the deal. But after
Mhm.
close of escrow, you may have repairs or carrying costs or who knows what. You're going to have something. It's not $0. So your
Mhm.
entry fee means you need to have not just 10 to close, but 15 or 25 to do the deal to really
Yep,
succeed in the next 2, 3, 4, 6 months. So
for
that's the
sure.
difference between, and people aren't thinking about that. They're looking at cash to close and being like, okay, I can afford that because I've got exactly
Mhm.
that plus $5 in my bank account. Nope,
Yeah.
you cannot afford to do that.
Yep, yep,
And that's the kind
yeah.
of questions I ask people. I'm like, "Where's the money for this?" And it's like,
Mhm.
"Well, what gives you the right to ask that question?" I care. That's what gives me the right. Help me understand so I can help you do a better deal.
Yeah. And everybody's risk tolerance is going to be a little different. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, oh, you already have $30,000 sitting in reserves for, in case what about stuff, like what about this and what about that? And or you don't. So it's important to understand that when you're doing that kind of underwriting. But so again, you joined SubTo, I joined SubTo. I didn't choose to be a TC, you did. So how did you evolve to being your focus? Did it start with you seeing the need in getting the organization of all the contracts we had? And you're like, wait a second, there's a problem I need to solve here. Like how did that work out?
There's a bunch of I'll say there's a bunch of cowboy stuff going on, right?
Mhm.
Um, take action, make mistakes was the mode, which is fine, right? Because we're learning together, but nobody was collecting the lessons learned. I think there was a lot of I don't know, to be nice about it, knowledge trapping or safeguarding or gatekeeping. Like I learned this thing and now it's my competitive advantage within this community.
I,
And I'm
I'll
like,
say something about that. Sometimes it's just you don't have an outlet for it, so you don't necessarily, or it's time away from your business, so you don't take the time to do it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. And there's leaders who have contributed back to the community for sure. And
Yeah.
they're giving away a lot of their secrets and stuff like that. And so
Mhm.
training and I just want to be part of that growth. And nobody was doing that with transaction coordination, with the
Right.
paperwork, with the
That for
critical
sure.
questions.
Mhm.
And there was somebody in the community who should have been doing it, but who wasn't.
Right.
Is the story that I heard, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it. I'll step up and do it. It needs to be done anyway, and it's a direction I want to travel because I can't stand bad formatting on paperwork. So I'm already going to fix this for me. I might as well share it with other people. And I wasn't cash heavy. I'm equity rich and cash poor.
Mm.
On a relative scale, whatever you want to call equity rich. I've got a couple $100,000 of equity in several properties that I've been able to acquire over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, but it's illiquid, and I'm not going to sell one right now. So being
Get
cash
a HELOC in second position. You can do that.
I can, but interest
Mhm.
rates right now, like I don't want to put that money to use yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, uh, what was I saying?
So then
Oh,
you were
I was
saying,
gonna
"Hey,
fix it anyway.
yeah, you're gonna do it anyway, so you might as well help other people," and then that evolved from there?
Yeah, and I want to be doing deals. Like if I partner with somebody, I want them to have good resources. I want people thinking through stuff so there's less repair by the time it gets to the time to let's do a JV and things like that.
Mhm.
I've always been a contributor and a fixer of things. Like if you bring me a paragraph and say, "Can you is this worded correctly?" I'm going to be like, well, you could change this. You could add a comma. You could rephrase it this way. You bring me the
Mhm.
same thing that I fixed yesterday to me and bring it right back. Hey, can you make this better? I'll find something wrong. I will find something wrong to fix, which will drive some people insane. But that's what drives continuous progress. My version numbers on documents and stuff like that. So the community needed it. I was pushing to do that. I could have, should have started a wholesale operation, would have made more money by now. But I also promised myself I'm only going to do one thing because Caleb used to do 10 things.
We hear Caroline say that a lot. Focus.
And I'm telling you, it is very hard for me as a visionary. I shoot so many squirrels. I have so many squirrel ideas like, oh, I could start this, I could start that, I could do this, I could do that. Stop. Just stop. Just do the one, do it well, and build a team. So I'm a baby entrepreneur too. I'm learning to manage staff. Can I tell you my payroll is in the upper 5 figures at this point?
Wow.
It is a huge load on my shoulders as a business owner to keep that pipeline full, to have the right people in place, to train people. It's a lot.
Yeah. So you've started this business. You're realizing what it takes to run this business. I know you recently hired a salesperson, right? Because you've known that about yourself.
Yeah,
do you want to talk
exactly.
give us a little bit of insights there?
Every once in a while, I pray for a key person because I'm like, this is a major thing and I can't fix it. I can't fill this gap. And I pray and God brings somebody. Marcella was that someone in that case, and it's been different people at different times, but it's very timely. And Marcelo, I love you. Thank you for being here. You have saved me. Like you've allowed us to hire people, right? And so what's interesting is that when he came on, he's so good at sales and like just pulling in business that I was like, oh shoot, I have to go hire more people because now I'm impeding his progress in getting commissions because I had to tell him to slow down, and I feel bad. I'm not going to cap commissions either. That's not my style. So you get commissions, sell away, homeboy. But now we have a bottleneck and it's staffing, and so literally the last 3 months for us has been recruit, hire, train, and deploy. And we've hired 21 people. We have 11 starting. We have 11 starting on Friday.
Wow.
There's a little bit of churn and it's really tough. But if I'm really going to be a business owner, I need to stop doing transaction management at this point and let my team do it, which has been very tough. And I need to open the bottlenecks so that my sales guy can be the most successful person possible, so that my employees can put more food on the table, buy toys and hobbies and whatever else they want to do. Like I need to get stuff. I need to block and tackle if I'm really going to be a business owner, so that other people can succeed because their success is my success and vice versa. And that's what I want to build as a business. Transaction management and consulting is the avenue. And so I'm committed to this one thing, like I told you, but I have so many dreams and big visions that when we have a team of 30 or 40 transaction managers who are experienced and boy, what's the next thing going to be? I have plenty of ideas.
Yeah. Well, I look at who is with us. Can we bring you up to stage? Let's go.
Yes. What's going on? Hello. You know what? You asked me yesterday if I have a webcam. It's my old iPhone, and sometimes it doesn't work. So I got in here and I was like, my camera's not working. I've been on the phone with like attorneys all afternoon. Oh, twins. I was listening to you, Caleb. I've been, hi, Caleb. Nice to see you. But I was just listening to you saying you need to build a team out. And I kind of was telling Ingrid this right before I called Ingrid. I was like, hey, I have like 15 minutes before I have to talk to this attorney so we can talk about the podcast stuff. I have to go do everything, but I'm wearing too many hats right now. I'm on the phones with attorneys. I'm doing I am the business instead of having people in my business. So
it's tough.
I don't want to, I need to continue talking to these attorneys right now for everything I have going on, but I don't want to talk to attorneys for a while after this.
You didn't use a TC on this?
Yeah, right. I should have used a TC on this.
Yeah. I would have been like, Caleb.
I use for creative stuff, I do, but this was a cash sale. Like, I don't want to do any subject to paperwork myself. I'd rather just use a TC for that. But like for a cash one, it's like in, out, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get itself to the finish line for the most part.
Yeah, but when there's the creative things, I'm going to use like, I won't talk about, we know Love. So Love got to me first and I've done other things. So I've used her for another transaction, but I would rather use a TC for everything creative. So I don't know who all is on here right now, but if you guys are into creative finance and you want to do subject to, because I know I got a lot of people on Instagram Live, don't do any creative finance paperwork yourself. Hire out to the professionals, aka Caleb, that can get everything done for you. Because Caleb, you are like that guy who knows all the nitty gritty. You're like the nerd that likes to nerd out on all the wordings and can sit still. I'm not. It's not me.
That's,
So
that's what
right
we've
now,
been talking about for
I'm on a
sure.
project right now to combine the best parts and pieces of 3 different trusts. And
oh,
trust, don't get me started on trusts because they're a whole thing. I think they may be a great solution for SubTo, but there's so much uncharted territory. We can talk about that in a minute. By the way, I'm not connected to chat here because I got the wrong YouTube channel. I'm not going to stop the show to get relogged in. Would you, that last comment, anybody is welcome to apply at creativetc.io. At the bottom, there's a jobs
got
link.
you. Got you.
Like I said, we've had over 400 applicants, so
Whoa.
don't feel bad if we, in the last 40 days.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm also paying on LinkedIn for job ads and things like that.
That's fantastic. Okay. Well, you heard it there, folks. Creative TCI oops.
.io. Yeah.
Coupons.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to click that. So I'm going to jump in since I came in late and I don't know what happened beforehand, but I want to just also say it's so dreamy that you have your own team that's doing everything. It was super easy and it wasn't a struggle finding the right hires and getting everybody to get in line with the
If you
core
want to see an
values.
11-minute video of me crying on camera, I'm not kidding, and it's almost tear jerking right now. I dismissed somebody right before Thanksgiving, and it's not
Oh.
easy.
Mm.
And I posted it to YouTube for posterity and for other business owners to see how tough it really is. But dang, man, it's not easy at all.
Yeah. And obviously on this podcast, our goal is to talk a lot about real estate, but really about business. Because at the end, real estate is a business. And what we're seeing and thank you, Caleb, for your transparency and for your authenticity around kind of what that journey feels and looks like. Again, I've gotten to experience it as a customer. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Caleb is, and it's been a while now, but like, he's so open for feedback. Like,
I know I've made mistakes on your deals too.
No, but because I'll say that the right clients, and maybe, I'm not saying I'm the right client, but maybe I'm the right client, but, will give you the feedback because they want to see you succeed. And so like,
and you have, we've had talk sessions on the phone where you're like, hey, what are you doing for this in your business? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. Or, hey, when I'm in the middle of this, having this sort of ability, like one of the things that I really liked in the past is like, oh, he's got like Zoom break rooms. So if you need him right away, he sends you a link and then boom, you're in the break room so you can get these questions answered quickly. Yeah. And so as a customer, as a client, that's super helpful because sometimes jumping on the phone is just not interactive enough. And so getting on the Zoom to kind of have that that textual experience, is so much helpful, especially if you're a newbie. Like if you're somebody who doesn't have the strong experience in real estate or contract paperwork or, even coaching, like, what do I say? I got to go back to the seller and tell them this. It's like, okay, well, here's the wording that I would use.
Man, one of the favorite things I've got. So let me explain to the audience what we do for Zoom. So we have a Zoom virtual office. I have a paid Zoom account. I had to pay for because I need 1080p for the recordings and stuff. So I had to pay for like a 10 user license, and I only need like 3 of them. I negotiated down to 5 licenses, but by the way, so if you're looking for Zoom, you can ask real hard, and they'll give you a 5 license business subscription, and you can get 1080p enabled. But we use Breakout Rooms. So every day, my virtual assistant logs in. We changed her profile picture recently to Welcome to Creative TC, and she just rides with her camera off. It says, so when you come in, it's the lobby, and you see this one image that says, Welcome to Creative TC. You should be called into a breakout room within 10 seconds. If not, ask for assistance. And so she sits there and does data entry on other stuff and monitors people coming in and out of the Zoom. And we've got 20 breakout rooms. Conference room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Private office 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got established etiquette that's like, if it's a conference room, you can, like, all of our team can see who's in what room, who's screen sharing, who's talking, who's not talking, whose camera's on. And so you can like, oh, I wanted to see what Caleb was talking about. He's in a conference room. I'm in between tasks. Let me go see if he's talking about something interesting. You pop into a conference room. You're allowed to go. No questions asked. If they're in a private office, you have to send them a DM. Hey, can I come in and visit you? I have something urgent, unless it's an emergency. And so you have client meetings. in private offices or in conference room and say, hey, I think this is a training topic for the team. Would you mind if we screen shared in here? Like the Zoom virtual office, so many people are underutilizing Zoom. And it runs like 14 to 16 hours a day.
Wow.
As a recurring meeting. Zoom is just always open.
That's cool. And it's like the post-pandemic virtual office opportunity. Like this is really where you're taking advantage of those experiences. And obviously your clients are better for it because they're getting a better client experience.
And
one
the
question
ability to
that I
live
used
support with the team is huge too.
For sure. Especially because you're coaching them in being better and more brilliant TCs and consultants, as you call them. One of the things, so I'm a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Arizona. I can fill in contracts whether I'm the principal, meaning I am somebody who's going to profit from a deal, or a fiduciary, meaning I can actually manage the rights of somebody so that I can actually translate them into contract. So our fiduciary is very limited. It's only within the license, right? So like usually the other people who can fill in contracts as a fiduciary are lawyers. This is transaction coordinating, is a piece of that. But when I was taught in real estate school, and I may be just remembering incorrectly, I had always thought that it was only licensed people could do that. Can you maybe clarify why that was what people thought, and why it's not necessarily that?
It's true. You're right. So to fill stuff out on behalf of other people, so for me, that's where I build a document and send it to you and you only sign. So when we take a consultative approach, we're having meetings, we're talking through suggested wording, we're putting it in a box, suggesting you take it to an attorney. You can either leave it as is or you can edit it, but you have edit access to that box, each of those text boxes, in the way we set it up. So we're very intentional about not sending over stuff that's static, predefined. We did the thinking for you. Here you go, sign it and move on. That's agency. Agency is a legal concept, by the way, and there's plenty of hours of videos that I've watched, and you can watch too if you want to go spend the time nerding out. But I understand the concept, and it's important to avoid agency or the practice of agency, whether it's implied or not.
Right.
And so we have a disclaimer up front. We're not attorneys. You should engage an attorney. We're providing you materials that you should still take to an attorney and review. You're responsible for all of that. We're providing suggestions and opinions only.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's a fine line, and what do I say? This is a recording on the internet. It could be that I'm wrong about how I'm doing it, and it could be a major liability for me. It is a fine line, and I understand there's risk there. I know I'm helping a ton of people, but helping people isn't necessarily what makes something okay. So it's an acknowledged risk that I have.
I think that's interesting. Okay, so here's what I was thinking you were going to say, which I think you did, which is like, here's agency versus not, and that's why you don't necessarily need to be licensed. And if you're going to, there are brokers, or at least my broker or the brokers I've been with, where if you're going to TC in the brokerage, you do have to have a license, but that's because you are expected to put together contracts in an agency manner. So I think you defined it pretty clearly in that regard. So yeah. Okay. So as far as your TCs or the people that join your team, are they going through some formal training? Do they get the certificate? I know that there's a program now, the top tier TC program, like they'll get licensed too, but like it's everybody has a product to sell, right? So like how are your team members like making sure they're staying up on the type of training that's needed, the documentation required, and sort of the processes around it?
I mean, I'm training directly. I'm not going to endorse any certification programs that there are certification programs that are state license oriented, like California has one you have to get, which is fine. I mean, because you have to do that, but it's the Wild West, and any training program is up against any other training program as which one's better. Who knows? Who cares? So I'm not going to give a whole lot of weight to unofficial certifications. So
Yeah.
internally, we have a maturity process of in 90 days, we take our employees who have not necessarily had real estate experience. I prefer those with real estate experience. But like I said, I want people with diverse backgrounds because they bring good questions and perspectives to things.
Mhm.
If they're the right person. And our core values spelled table: take initiative and be resourceful, advocate for the client, be relatable, lead with value, and exhibit attention to detail. If you're the right person, I can train you on the things. I can train the how, but I need you to be the right who. I can't change your who. I can change the how. So we're training that. We're finding the right people, and that's why we spend so much money and time recruiting to get the right people in. And we're training that from observer to puppet, and that's where puppet is like, okay, I'm going to be the one accountable for this deal. I'm going to run it. You're going to do it. I'll be pulling your strings. You type the message. I'm going to correct it before you're allowed to send it. I'll tell you what to type, where to type it, where to get the forms, but I'm telling you what to do. So you go from observer, you see the stuff done, you ask questions, and you learn, to now I'm telling you what to do. And the next stage is co-pilot, where you're taking the lead, but you're not allowed to send anything until I've looked at it. And then ultimately you'll be an independent operator.
And this is sort of how you've matured in the business, right? Where it's like,
Yeah, that's how I'm training people now inside my company.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean that's a man with some SOPs right there.
Yeah, that's an organized nerd that I want to be a part of.
I have 20 minutes on the low end and on the high end 1 hour every single day of, we call it basic training. And anybody who's less than 120 days in the company is required to be there every day unless they have something very pressing and urgent. And I do diagrams about how wraps work, what the difference is between a SubTo plus seller finance, like a hybrid, or a SubTo mirror wrap plus seller finance, because now you have 3 liens instead of 2, or an all-in-one seller finance, a wraparound, like an equity wrap, where you take the base price and mark it up. Now you're wrapping a larger dollar amount with or without different interest rates on the different principal amounts, right? But one of them, you've got only 1 lien, no second lien. That's the naked SubTo. If you do seller finance, you do end up with a second lien. If you do the exact wrap plus seller finance, now you have 3 liens recorded against the property, which makes it harder to wrap down the line. And then on the third one, you only have 2 liens at close of escrow for the first transaction. So if you want to wrap it later on, it's a little easier to place another wrap around the first. But like that sort of stuff, you have to diagram it, and we have to work through it. And that's what basic training is for every day. And we just take the topic of the day, and we have a parking lot. Have you guys ever used a parking lot for discussion notes?
No.
We document every single day. We document the topic, and I usually pull out my iPad and do a sketch of the entities involved and things like that. So we're very interactive. A parking lot is where we park ideas. Like, oh, I need to discuss this. We've got basic training coming up tomorrow morning. I'll ask Caleb that in the morning. And we prioritize stuff in the parking lot. So 3 or 4 or 5 ideas are in there, and I'll discuss all of them in your basic training. Yeah. And so everybody knows that every day they can just go open the basic training meeting notes and drop something in the parking lot. And when I open it in the morning, I'll be like, okay, what are the pressing issues? Or I'll have something that somebody came to me with a question the previous day, and I'll say, this is the topic this morning. We need to make sure we address this. Here's a reminder.
It's very agile of you, by the way. That's an agile topic. Like, no, in the IT world.
I know.
Okay. I was like, wait, you were in cybersecurity. Come on now. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've
got a project management certification. I had a whole alphabet soup of certifications, by the way, in IT and cybersecurity, like 13 certs.
I only had the one. I was a Scrum Master.
I didn't get that one.
But I'm
familiar with Scrum meetings, but I haven't run official Scrum style meetings.
Yeah, Scrum Master. Yeah, it's really the ceremony keeper of all the things that you're supposed to do in the agile.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I am not in IT or security. And I was like, 4 people left. They're like, what the heck are they even talking about? I don't know what the heck's going on here. So this is really cool because this is what I mean, I see all of the new people. Caleb, I know you probably get a million questions. And Ingrid, you and I were just talking about, Ingrid is more of a JV person. She likes to do JV. So if you guys have deals, like we gave you guys a list last week, and I actually went back through today and emailed everybody. If you guys did not get the list of data that we pulled, when I say we, Ingrid did all the heavy lifting there. It's a list of expired listings. Here's the list so you guys know. Expired listings and pre-foreclosures. So you guys can have access to that. You need to be following us on Instagrams and on YouTube and show us that. And you email us at doihaveadeal@gmail.com. And I send all those back out. But Ingrid deals with a lot of people with JVs. So she gets a lot of questions about how to close deals. I see a lot of new people that are just getting started with real estate, and they're like, what is a KPI? What are all of these things? So why I see so many people in the morning on the Zooms that I do, we had a holiday and we didn't do any Zooms last week. And I can't even tell, I probably got 40 messages in 2 days from people saying, oh my gosh, I feel so out of whack. I don't know how to like stay organized and start my day. I have so many questions I want to ask. The way you're talking about your team and your system, it sounds so dreamy because it's basic training. It makes me go back to when I was in basic training. It's the same thing every day. You don't have to think about it. You know, you have to go to this meeting. We're going to cover the same stuff. We're going to go over new things. So that's really, really cool. What time of day does your office or your Zoom office open up for clients to be able to file in? And I think you're in are you in Kansas? Are you in
yeah, Kansas? I'm on Central Time. So I mean, if you need somebody emailed me something urgent. A deal closes on Friday and they've received no paperwork and they're concerned and there's supposed to be a TC on the deal and they don't know about it. They can't get a hold of anybody and they're like, please help. And that came in right before I had come on here. So I said, what's the earliest you can meet in the morning? But normally we're running like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central.
Okay.
But I've got somebody who starts at 7 a.m. I've got somebody who stays on till 7 p.m.
So with your Zoom setup, you have it as you're doing your daily basic training meeting, and you're also open to clients to potentially come in at the same time. They can just go into those different Zoom rooms.
Yeah.
Oh,
so everybody on my team has made a co-host in the Zoom.
Gotcha.
And when you have co-host status, so the first person to open the Zoom has to be very quick about opening all the breakout rooms, and they have to open enough for the whole day. Because if you need to change breakout rooms, I wish Zoom was a little more flexible. You have to shut them all down, put everybody in the same room, and then rebuild them. So my virtual assistant gets in there and builds all the rooms. We've got a training room. We've got private offices 1 through 7, a staff room just as like a default hangout, and then conference rooms 1 through 7. So she builds those. She opens those up first thing in the morning. And when you come in as an employee, she makes you co-host status. Then you can see who's inside the breakout rooms and pick and choose where to go.
That makes sense.
But when a client comes in, they don't land in the lobby. They can't see who's in what breakout rooms. But we immediately, if John Smith comes in, I see that he came in because everybody gets the pop-up, someone's here.
Yep.
And then I open the breakout rooms interactive window. And I just click John Smith and I say assign to private office 3. And his end, he just gets a little pop in the middle of his screen that says, the host is inviting you to room 3. You click OK, you show up, I show up, and we have a meeting.
Super. So one of the things you mentioned earlier and part of the discussion here today is about how having a TC, especially as an investor, is literally like a secret weapon, like it really, again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. It really helps avoid your deals falling through. And I actually have a personal experience from using Caleb's team, Michael Kim.
I was going to say that dude's a hero.
Yeah, he really is. Shout out to Michael Kim.
Michael Kim.
We were doing a Vegas deal. And again, this is some advanced shit. So don't recommend.
Do not recommend. Yeah.
Yeah, I do not. Disclaimer, I do not recommend. This is for entertainment purposes only. So we pay off the arrears because if we don't do it, the property's going to get foreclosed on
before closing.
Before closing. Yeah,
always dangerous.
Yeah, and so the foreclosure happens that Friday. The payoff has to happen by that Thursday, and it's like Tuesday. That's when I find out about the transaction, And so between me, Pace, another guy named Ray out in Vegas, me and Pace foot the bill, and it's $75,000. Okay. Ooh. So we had to do some really fast title work just so that we're feeling confident that whatever's against that property, we can handle. So it wasn't like we were completely blind.
But ProTitle USA, by the way, anybody can go to ProTitleUSA.com and order a title search for like $100 or maybe $150 if you put a rush order on it in 4 hours business hours turnaround time. ProTitleUSA.com. I'm not necessarily vouching for them. I'm just saying they're very fast and easy. And when we do self-performed transactions, that's where we start because we can get something back pretty quick.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. Good to know. And so that was just like the beginning part of this deal. But because Michael, he was handling the transaction and all the bumps and bruises and punches we received during the transaction, the funny part is our buyer was like praying that we failed, because if we failed, then he wouldn't have to pony up the, I think, $120,000 that he needed to come to the table to buy this deal
Big
from us.
deal.
Yeah, so it was a big deal, and he's like, okay, this isn't going to happen, because he regretted having to buy a property with such a big down payment. But it's
But
like,
he
no, bro.
also, I remember that guy. He also honors his word. He committed to buy the property, so he's like, I'm going to honor this. And Michael Kim, I just want to say this: if here's the surface level of the water, he's swimming down here. You don't know how much he's working. And I'm
No.
like, Michael, you got to tell people. It's not bragging. You just got to copy people in on some stuff every once in a while and show a chain. Like, hey, I've been communicating with these people for the last 4 days with 40 emails back and forth. Meanwhile, Ingrid, you have no idea how many calls and emails he's been doing to help you out.
By the way, and that's why I love working with Michael Kim, because as a business owner on the other side of the transaction, right? This is like the back end. On the front end, I got to go find more deals. I'm hunting, you know? And so it's why you want to have the right team members, whether they're your own employees or your partners. So like I consider Creative TC one of my partners, because they can take care of those things while I'm working on other things.
All this did, the last 30 seconds just made me so mad. I'm just so frustrated because I've just been doing this all by myself, doing the 40 emails by myself, interacting with my sellers. I'm like, I would have paid how much? I would have paid $1,500. I would pay $2,000 to like have somebody else deal with the chaos for my this. I just got, I was on the phone right before I got on here with the attorney for a situation. I'm like, hey, where are the trust documents? What do we need for this? Like, I got it. I spoke with 4 attorneys today. Okay. And I was like, can I get these trust documents from you to send to this other one? And it would have brought me so much more peace to not have been involved. And I'm just thinking, gosh darn it, why did I not go this route? The homeowner that I've dealt with on this property has lost his cell phone 3 times. So he's gotten 3 new phones, changed his phone number twice. He's gone through 4 emails because he keeps forgetting his emails.
Is it a foreclosure lead?
Yes, it's a foreclosure lead. Okay. And did he have a history?
Character? I'm just calling out like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Foreclosure lead. When we got him under contract at the beginning of July on 2 properties. And then he's like, no, I don't. Oh, there's my phone saying surprise. don't, we're going to be good. Don't want this. I'm like, all right, man, the longer we take, the longer this takes to get to the closing table, the longer it's going to take for you to get money. Well, the house he was living in caught on fire miraculously. Ingrid, you know, we've been to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And
good luck follows that type of person, doesn't it?
Dude. And then it's just, now I'm dealing with the other part. So he had his dad's property that he inherited. Nobody could find the trust. It's been like a whole chaotic thing. And then like there's people living in the property for the last 13 years that don't own the property. Yeah. So I've been trying to go through and like get the eviction handled. And it's just been, I have been so stressed out and I haven't been able to have a team to handle things for me because I'm doing it myself. I'm just like, why am I spending all of this time? So hearing how, and I remember we had dinner with Michael Kim and I'm like, hearing how you have trained your team so well, like this is really what's making me, you can't, if I was a cartoon character, imagine that my tongue just rolled out and I have hard eyes looking at you, Caleb.
Like, I get that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
It actually happens.
But I was like, man, I've wasted so much time to have somebody that could go. So you guys communicate with the homeowner, the seller, and you'll communicate with title, and you'll communicate with your end buyers.
Yeah. So you got to understand, though, again, we're not practicing agency. So there's a coordination aspect, and that's the communication with the parties and like, hey, come on, give me the docs. We need the docs, please. Let's go. Get on the phone, left you 4 voicemails. But if you put something under contract and brought it to us, I just want to be clear. It's your relationship and you're authorizing us to communicate with that person to get the stuff done. We try to keep you out of the loop or only CC'd and stuff just so you can follow along. But if we can't get a hold of somebody for 4 days straight, voicemails, calls, texts, emails, we're going to say, hey, I need you to jump back in the ring here and give a 1-2 punch, get this guy back in communication with us, because we're not the ones that built the relationship. So sometimes we need to pull you back in. We're not going to do any negotiation on your behalf or anything like that. But that's the coordination piece. The consultation piece is, okay, I talked to this person. My gut tells me they're not being honest about something, and here's what I think it's going to be. Here's how that impacts you, what options you can take. Now you put this under contract as a naked SubTo, but let's consider it's a VA loan. Well, what's your long-term plan with this? That's why I want to know your entry and your exit strategy, because what you put on contract on the front end may affect significantly what you can do on the back end.
That's really
so that's the consultation side.
That's really cool. So everybody that's in, I'm sorry, Ingrid, I jumped in. I was just thinking, I was like, man, I'm so jealous of Ingrid. Her life is so good. She got Michael Kim to do all the heavy lifting there after he got everything lined up to go across the finish. Like, he got to deal with all the emails back and forth and made sure that your buyer performed, which is incredible. And Michael Kim learned from you. And that comes back to how great of a teacher you are to make sure that there is no stone left unturned. I mean, we're all part of a group chat, which I don't really interact in there much, but I see you like just dropping all of your little nuggets in there and all the questions that Ingrid has. It's really cool because you guys have been doing.
I hold a lot back. I watch a lot of stuff pass through that chat, and I'm like, no, that's a whole can of worms. I'm not gonna open.
No. But it's really cool just being around you. So one other thing I want to say, if you guys are not connected with Caleb and you're not connected, and then maybe this is your first time being on this podcast or listening to it with us, try and get into these circles where you can hang around people that are doing like crazy off the wall shit, like dealing with, when I've been talking to my attorneys, like, this is not very common, the situation you're going through right now. Like the thing that you dealt with, Ingrid, Pace came in and lent money on this, made nothing on it. It was a 0% return for him.
We gave him a fee. I made Raymond give a piece of our fee. But I was like, I'm guilty. I need good money karma. Yeah.
There you go. But originally Pace was like, I don't want any money, which is so wild. Pace got into a deal because of you. Exactly. He wanted the story, but he got into the deal because of you. You're over on this side of me. You're mirrored for me. So what I'm saying, guys, with this podcast and who's in here, you have people that are doing the right thing. Okay. Doing things ethically. You can connect with them and ask them questions, and it opens up doors for you to hang out with other people and have the opportunity to do deals with more people. So knowing the right TCs, knowing the right people that'll close your deals, the right buyers, somebody who's been through a situation. Like, there's so many times where I've been like, Caleb, I love going into SubTo and looking up SubTo library. I'm like, this is how you can find everything. Go talk to Caleb, interact with him. Yeah, push people to Ingrid. So if anybody's new on here, these are like, Caleb, I don't know if you can throw your Instagram name on your thing there so people can connect with you on it. Do you message people back on Instagram?
No, not really.
Okay, well, I push everybody to Instagram.
Well, so my Instagram, F Caleb Christopher, but also my YouTube channel, I think, F is Frederick, legal first name. Yeah, F that guy. No, it's been confusing my whole life. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for doing that, naming me Frederick at the last minute. They're like, oh, he looks like an old man, like when they saw me as a baby. And put a Frederick name on the front end, which happens to be my grandfather's name. So it's, it's all in the family. But so at F Caleb Christopher, but my YouTube channel, I drop a lot more value there overall. And I don't think there's too many Caleb Christophers on YouTube. So that should be pretty easy to find.
All right, let's get to your question you brought up here though, Ingrid. Sorry. I edited it. So when we pull this question down, we'll see your name, but Joe Ho, said, is there a way to do a land contract and subject to hybrid? So this is actually, what is a land contract before you talk about the rest of this?
Me? You want me to answer?
Yep, this for you.
Yes.
Stump the nerd. So a land contract is the same thing as a contract for deed, is the same thing as a bond for deed. There's several names for it, okay? All of those are specific document names within the family of executory contracts. Just as a categorization, executory contract is a category of type of documents. These contract for deed, land contract, etc. Contract for deed is going to be in a deed of trust state. Land contract is going to be in a mortgage state. Okay, so you can use the two interchangeably in conversation. The actual legal document will have a different title and different. Literally, you can do a find and replace for contract for deed and swap it with land contract and use the same paper.
Okay.
Just for clarity there, and that is a form of contract. If you've ever leased to own a car or bought a car on payments, you don't get the title until you finish paying it off. That's exactly what it is with a house. You get the full use and ownership. You can put new wheels and tires on it. You can
depreciate.
Oh, yes.
Taxes.
Yeah. So you may be limited in whether you can paint it or perform upgrades on it, right? There may be limitations like that. So it's like a super tenant slash partial owner. You get the same benefits of ownership, including depreciation, by the way. For a tax strategist, I pay $750 a month to be a member of, by the way, is a former IRS auditor, and finally laid it on the line for me. Won't make a public video, but laid it on the line for me because I called her out and cornered her in a Zoom with the rest of the people on, and I'm like, hey, IRS publication 537, and I can't remember which other one. I'm like, I'm reading this, and I need the lowdown because I've been asking your team for a couple of weeks now. Can I depreciate when I buy on a contract for deed? Yes or no? And we went through it, and a plain reading indicates yes. And so, contrary to a lot of opinions out there, Caleb is convinced, not a CPA or an attorney, Caleb is convinced you can depreciate the asset that you purchase on a contract for deed. The main convincing piece of that, by the way, is the fact that the IRS considers it for the seller, considers it a sale at that time. And I'm like, if they consider it a sale for the seller, they consider it an acquisition for the buyer, and the buyer can depreciate. Boom.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So, that's how an attorney actually explained it to me when I asked.
Yep. And I can touch on the 0% interest. Put that in the parking lot, Caroline. Now that you're going to start using parking lots on the zero interest loans, because I can talk about that as well. Ooh. So can we do a land contract and a subject to hybrid? I'm going to have to pull that apart because you're mixing two ideas that are not, they're generally mutually exclusive. You're either doing a land contract, which is a form of buying a subject to if there is existing financing. So if you do a land contract or contract for deed and there's a bank financing or some previous seller financing, anything that's already existing, you still need SubTo disclosures because you're buying it subject to something. And let me further break down what is a subject to deal. If you've ever bought a house, I promise you've done a subject to deal. You bought it subject to something. Maybe not the existing mortgage because you're bringing in a new mortgage, but you bought it subject to fixing
this up.
Yeah, maybe that. But also, can the utility yard come through and dig up your yard?
Oh.
Yeah.
You bought it subject to easements and subject to other things. There are other limitations. You do not have absolute sovereign control over your property. You can't shoot some utility worker for digging through your yard. You can't kick them off.
Subject to being in the United States.
Yeah. So you have bought it subject to something. So every deal is a subject to deal. Now, in creative finance, we're adding existing financing to what we're taking it subject to. Taking it subject to lien, rights of way and other encumbrances like with whatever they're called, easements, and the existing mortgage, number 123, recorded as document number 456 on 2024, whatever date, in the county records. That's how that works. So when you do a land contract, you're buying it on terms with a future promise of the deed. I will get the deed when I finish satisfying all the terms, whether they be financial or otherwise. When I satisfy all terms and conditions herein, I get the deed. But right now, I get possession and effective ownership.
Yep. But the answer, Joho, in the simplest term, is yes.
So
here's your long drawn out.
Yes, I'm the king of that. This is why my basic training in the mornings goes for like an hour a lot of times because I can't give it.
You make sure everybody understands, which is really cool.
No, you're explaining. This podcast is not get to the point. It's called explain it.
There you go.
Right?
That's good. I feel better.
We want to explain that. So I do want to get to a couple more questions. So we have can you wrap an FHA loan?
That's a good question.
Yes, but I find it highly unethical if you are not very upfront and open. It's my opinion that FHA loans are a higher risk of due on sale and or if and when they get called due on sale, there are fewer remedies. So if you are wrapping to an owner occupant, an end buyer, a consumer, it would be unethical for you not to genuinely discuss, not just slam a pile of papers on closing day and say, you've already got your EMD in, you're ready to move in, sign this. I'm talking like talk through it. There's an existing loan. Here's what the risk of due on sale is. And my team is happy to have that discussion, by the way. We'll talk through it as part of, so you can either book it as a paid consult on the front end or it's included in your transaction management because we're consultants. There's a risk of due on sale. The likelihood is relatively low, but if it does happen, here are the remedies. We can throw it in a trust. We can deed it back to the original seller and buy it on a this or that or the other. Although with the FHA loans, they're just more restrictive on what you're allowed to do. You can't solve it with a contract for deed. You can't solve it with a lease option. I solved a due on sale with somebody, but specific to their exit strategy, it was an FHA loan. We were able to do a deed back and a lease option because they intended to flip it, just hold it for a little while and then sell it. So less than 36 months. It's these little detailed things that that help you strategize. What are my options here? So can I say there's a one and done solution for handling a due on sale? No. It depends on the loan. So you can wrap an FHA loan, but I'm going to consult when you bring one of those to me. I'm going to say, are you being open and honest with your buyers about how to do that? And I've turned customers away. Like, no, I insist that they know this, or here's your money back. I don't want, and it's going to cost me money to give you a refund, by the way, because I pay processing fees in and out. And if you get all of your deposit back, that means I actively lost money and time. That's how unwilling I am to do a deal where you're not completely open and honest with your owner occupant buyer.
Yep.
You're
If
doing
they're
business
spending
right
every penny they have to get into the deal, it's not a good idea.
No.
For sure.
That's actually, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say this one thing. I'll let you have it, Ingrid. That's something I've had a few people come up to me and they've been like, I've been buying deals that don't cash flow and I'm putting, so much money into this. And now I have another mortgage and I can't find an end buyer for it. And I shouldn't have bought this deal. So I'm really happy that you're saying that for everybody on here. Don't buy something, especially if you're brand new to like being a buy and holder investor when you're keeping things. If it does not cash flow as a long-term rental, you should not touch it. You are not.
That means there's no deals. Then there's no deals. Don't do them.
Learn how to negotiate better. Yeah. Keep looking. The worst thing, and this is like, imagine this for everybody on here, and don't lose your thought. Put a pin in it, Ingrid. Don't lose your thought. Everybody in here in the parking. I wrote down the 0% thing for my pen for you.
Me too.
Everybody in here. The work, could you imagine right now? I want you guys close your eyes. Think of this. What if you have your mortgage or your rent that you're already paying, and you had some money set aside, and you got 3 more properties, and you're paying mortgages on those? You can open your eyes now. You're paying your mortgage on those, and you're not getting any return. So you're paying 3 other mortgages plus your one. If you guys wouldn't buy it twice, you shouldn't buy it once. Just because it looks juicy, or just because Caroline has really pretty red hair and blue eyes, and you think
just because the entry fee is low. There was actually a deal that was almost free to me, but the entry fee was like $7,000, and I was like, but it's upside down on the cash flow, like more than $400. I was like, not worth it. I'm not at that risk tolerance where I'm okay with that. Maybe I hope to one day say, yeah, absolutely, the depreciation on that would have paid for itself for sure. But I'm not at a risk tolerance where that makes sense.
Put this in the parking lot too. I've got a seller that's going to pay me after I buy.
Nice.
So I'll explain that as well in a minute.
Pretty cool. But
actually, I have 0 interest. I'm closing on tomorrow where that's happening. I'm walking away with $5,000.
Wow.
From the seller?
I want to hear about both of those.
No,
everybody. Don't buy deals that do not cash flow. Ingrid, go ahead. I'm going to let you pull your pen out.
Well, what I was going to say, Caroline, is that these really should be going to short sale. Like, people are trying so hard to save these creative deals because they have a 3% or something like that. And it's like, look, buddies, we are investors. And the reason we do creative is for cash flow primarily. If those of us who have graduated to making millions and we just need the depreciation, okay. But I would say 80% of us are not in that bucket. And really, we should be consulting these sellers because it's actually better for them to just go through a short sale process. It does impact their credit. It is a negative impact. I've had a short sale. I have short sold, but it's a 4-year process. They will get over it because I always say adult decisions come with adult consequences. They need to learn their lesson on being behind and what that looks like. And I mean, I understand different stories, but there's go short.
Yeah, there's consequences for every. And this is one of my sales trainer gave me this. One of my coaches. We say consequences. There's consequences for everything. If you wake up and you do the right thing and you work out and you eat healthy, you're going to feel really good. That's a consequence of your action. It's what's going to happen. Consequences are positive and negative. So you're going to have consequences in life and learn from them. And you'll never do it again.
Choose hard work now and saving and making hard decisions, or choose dealing with bad decisions.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for sharing that, Ingrid. Tell me about your 0%. We can't buy. I'm guessing it's the IRS saying we can't buy properties with 0% interest.
Well, I want to hear Caleb's feedback on that. What did
So
your
I made
tax
I made
people
a
say?
video for a client that I have not released yet,
Mhm,
by the way. I sent it to the client because they had an active need, but I went and researched the topic, which is part of what, like, I have my teammates come to me and they're like, "Hey, how do we deal with this?" And I'm like, "What did you search already? Did you search our internal vault?" Like, I've got hundreds of hours of recordings with
mhm.
keywords in the titles, and the video has the length of the video on it. So you'll see if it's a 17-minute video or a 2-minute video with your topic. Have you looked those up and watched them? Have you gone to Google? Have you talked to Chad? That's what we call Chat GPT, by the way. Have you talked to Chad about it? Like, you're coming to me, not first, which includes reading IRS publications, reading the Garn St. Germain Act, things like that. Like, go read it, learn it for yourself, and bring that back to the team so that when somebody has a question, it's not just a one-to-one, it's a one client to one TM, transaction manager, who then can turn around to the team and say, who was it that already read Garn St. Germain? Here's my issue. And you've got a whole team of people. That's the sort of research. So when I was researching the zero interest, I had heard that as long as it's under 150K, it doesn't say that anywhere. You can do it under 150K. That's not true. It may be true, but it's not objectively true like it says it somewhere. The IRS publication talked about there are exceptions to, and I forget the word. I'm going to butcher it. Maybe I should just release the video. But
imputed interest.
yeah, imputed interest and the AFR, the applicable federal rate, must or it must be applied, or it will be assumed to be implied after the fact. And the only person that hurts is the seller who received the financing and now has to take a hit. The bottom line is the IRS doesn't want people dodging taxes. Okay, if you understand that's the intent behind the tax law, then it does have an exception subjectively, so it is open to interpretation, and the IRS may say your interpretation's bad. So screw that, you pay taxes. But I don't expect this to be the case, because if I'm doing a deal at $160,000, and I've done this, and we raise the price to $180,000, well, and then we charge zero interest in order to get the deal done, if that's what it took to do the deal. And we were going to charge 2% or something like that before, whatever. If that's what gets the deal done and you can justify it, it is okay. It's when you're using it to dodge taxes. So if there's a legitimate reason, it's just like if you buy a house and have a life circumstance change 2 days after closing, it's legitimate for you to move out. You're not violating the owner occupancy intention of an owner occupant loan, right? So if I find out I've got triplets 5 days after I move into my house and it's a 2-bed house, well, you know what? I can start shopping for another one and just turn this one into a rental, and it was not mortgage fraud. If I find out before closing and go ahead and go through, not intending to live in it for a whole year, that's mortgage fraud.
Correct.
It's situational.
So that is how I got my deal. The seller bought the house for $600,000 2 years ago, cash, and it's sitting on the market right now at 550, and they haven't been able to sell it. And the seller was like, biggest mistake of my life. I bought it cash for $600,000. I'm probably going to end up having to sell it below 500 or around 500. That was something she expressed to her agent. And I was like, I'll buy that for $600K at zero interest.
Yeah.
And that's what got the deal done.
Now, is that person going to pay capital gains? How long ago did they get it?
They've owned it for 2 years, and it was their primary home. So no,
Actually,
the answer is no.
Also, in this case, there's no profit to make.
No, there's no profit to make.
So even if they bought and sold at the same price, there's no capital gains to be taxed anyway. So it's not like you're using zero interest to dodge them having to pay taxes on gains. So consider it from that angle as well.
Yeah.
Now, if you get into an owner-occupant situation where they're within the capital gains exemption, and then you're increasing price so that they don't have to pay interest, well, they would have paid taxes on regular income gains from interest.
The difference. Yeah. Okay.
So you do have to be careful there. Like, it could be said that if they're going to get the exemption anyway, and you just up the price and it's still within the exemption, then now they don't have to pay tax on the increase. Whereas if you did the lower price with interest, they would have paid taxes on at least that piece. So, but the next question is it inconsequential?
Yeah.
If it's a couple $100 a year that they'd pay in taxes, that could be considered inconsequential compared to the rest of the totality of circumstances of what the deal is.
Yeah. Robert, Question. Will a TC do a traditional deal with an agent for a personal home?
Not me. That's what
Why not?
that's what a traditional TC is for.
Why
They'll do the
wouldn't
paperwork.
creative TC do that?
Yeah, we work with agents, not for agents, by the way. And that's a distinction we've had. We've had some difficult conversations around that with various agents. We had somebody like delegating broker portal access logins, and I'm like, that's not us. That's not. TC stands for consultants, not coordinators, and we manage transactions for you. By the way, we got a new logo, and I want to put it on a hat so bad.
Where's your new logo? Where is it?
It's on the website.
Oh, okay.
It's a beautiful little minimalist house thing.
Caroline, you're the one who can do the present thing. I'm not good at it. Let's take like 5 more minutes, and I appreciate you, Caleb, for staying over. We're already at 5:10. I do want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for all the stuff. And I'm so proud of you and how you're building out your business and maturing it. That's really cool for me to experience and see, especially for those of us who want to build successful businesses. Like that's the journey it takes, man. So, but Caleb, what's the craziest problem you come across with the creative deal, and how did you solve it?
I wanted to show Caroline the DIY versus
I'm enjoying
versus
that.
outsource versus insource. Oh, make the other video bigger.
How do I make you bigger? I don't know how to pick on you individually.
I don't know.
Oh,
it'll work this way.
Speaking Ingrid.
It'll work this way. They can read it when we're all 3 equal. Oh, got it. So, by the way, this is what Caroline was talking about, like the difficulty of having to do all this stuff. The DIY is really more like DI try. You wear all the hats. And this is a conversation I have to have with people who are like, I don't want to spend money on a TC. By the way, if you're assigning deals and you make this a closing cost, really the only impact to you is an upfront deposit. And if you're doing good deals, you're not wasting that money. But it takes you away from lead generation, by the way, if you're wholesaling. It is cheap on the front end, but is it really cheap long run? Because you have full control, but it relies on you to do it right. So mistakes cost you a lot in the long run. The next level in maturity is outsourcing. So you get to focus on doing deals. It does tend to be expensive, but you have less quality control, right? You're relying on Caleb or whoever else to do a good job for you. And so that's the danger there. It does get more expensive, and it sucks when it doesn't go well because you think back to, I might have could have done it better, and it wouldn't have cost me anything. So that is the challenge with outsourcing, and it gets expensive. And the next level up is a larger step, is to insource, where you hire the transaction coordinator, manager, whatever. But you have to recruit, hire, train, support, and replace that person. It's moderately expensive, so it may be cheaper than outsourcing, and you do have full control.
Mm-hmm.
But, like that's a big jump, and that's tough to do. So I just want to mention that we're working on trying to find a way to bridge that gap with like some sort of fractional transaction coordinator. If you can commit to a certain number of deals per month, we'll reduce prices and deposits and things like that. So, there's the screen share.
There we go.
But the logo's so tiny on there.
I know. So we won't know what it is, but so this is your website. So
scroll down and let's see here. Oh, yeah.
It's right up here on the top.
There's a map of deals we've done that I haven't updated in 5 months, but like,
So you've been the transaction coordinator in all of these.
Me personally, heck no.
Your team.
Yeah. And there's dozens and dozens more that I don't have on there.
Oh, there's your logo.
There you go.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you guys want to consider working with Caleb, creativetc.io, and that's where you can look at what it looks like and what it costs, right? Because don't you have a pricing sheet or something?
Yeah, you can click view pricing there, or it's the /pricing page.
Yeah.
So we're pretty open and straightforward. I'm not even as expensive as some other people, and I know they do less than me, by the way.
Yeah. Well, maybe you need to value yourself some more. But
we're looking at a Q1 price increase, but I'm building my team under the surface. But to the question on the craziest deal, man, that's hard to answer. It usually involves people getting too creative, like trying to rescue something out of the trash. Like, no, that is a piece of trash.
Yeah.
You shouldn't buy that. You're so far down the road, and I don't feel like letting you fall into the gutter with it. So
and that's why I really like what you said earlier, that go get that consultant work from Caleb. Like, let him get, especially if
you do
newer.
a deal with us and you have not learned a crap ton by the end of doing that deal, I have failed.
Yeah. Very good.
Not only are you getting the transaction coordination, but it should be like a micro mentorship for the one deal you're on. I'm not going to answer unending questions about all creative deals across the board, but you've got access to a person who's got access to a team and to me for escalations like, hey, what's my best choice here? Well, we'll help you make informed decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Is that Suzanne Sharkey in the chat? Hello, Suzanne, all the way from Rhode Island.
She's good people.
So when Jiru says how much are people typically paying for TCs? I thought you meant like how they're paid. Well, there you go. You saw Caleb's pricing there. I thought you were asking how are people paying for TCs? And generally speaking, when I'm dispoing a deal, I ask the end buyer to cover it. But when I am buying a deal, I cover it. I cover it, and I just underwrite it with the private money that private money lender or my own cash, depending on the situation. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. One last question, maybe, and then we can wrap things up.
Let's hear it. So Greg, you got it. Greg Perez says, "What's the risk for due on sale for a property that has down payment assistance? Repayment required when sold, refinanced, not owner occupied, or after 40 years? LOL."
Do I Caleb's explain this or short circuit and do the
short
There's a whole
circuit
class on okay, yeah, because I will touch on what down payment assistance is, though. A lot of times, economically, local areas will incentivize people. So the local government, city, county, whatever, is offering, hey, here's a development zone. We want more people here, so we got more jobs, more income, more revenue. So they'll offer down payment assistance, $5,000 to $25,000. Hey, if you're in the fire, police, EMS industry, if you're in tech, if you're in this, work from home, move here. We'll pay your down payment for you up to this much money. So people are incentivized by that. But the terms are, if you move out, there's like five different ways of doing it. If you move out early, if you don't hold it long term, if you don't keep it as a primary residence, then you owe it back, whether partially or in full. And if you live in it long enough, some of them pay down over time just as a small dollar amount every month. Some of them ride with no payments as a silent second, and they just fall off after 5 years, after 10 years, or at the end of the loan. So the terms and conditions of every one of these could be slightly or majorly different, and you need to actually get a copy of it and read it to find out what the specific terms are. For example, in Colorado, CHFA, the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, we did a deal that had down payment assistance, and they watched the name of who's got the utilities open for due on sale. So can it be high risk? It can be extremely high risk. The buyer and seller agreed to leave the accounts open in the seller's name in this case. It was such a crazy deal, man.
Deal?
There's one of your crazy deals is that the seller agreed to let the buyer leave all the utility bills in the seller's name.
Wow.
And so we specifically extended the power of attorney to include those things. They also agreed to an unrecorded contract for deed. Crazy cowboy stuff. Do not recommend. However, everybody involved wanted to do it, and I said, here are the risks. Here's the damages. This person can be a jackwad to you. This person can be a jackwad to you. You need to be able to, like, deals. Houses don't do deals. People do deals. You have to be able to trust the other person on the other end of the line. There has to be an equitable exchange. So there was an exchange of value. It was full disclosure. Like I said, I'll turn down a deal if I don't think somebody understands. I talked to all the parties. They were all involved and okay with it. Unrecorded contract for deed. We did some other cowboy stuff to at least record their interest in the property, but that one is so high of a risk of due on sale because of the specific type of down payment assistance and who's watching and how hard. So it is my opinion, yes.
Yeah. The how do you know if the sellers had gotten a down payment system? When you do your transaction through a title company, that's part of the title search. Title will see all or will attempt to look at what liens are recorded against the property, and down payment assistance is generally as public as possible so people know there's a lien against the house. Cool. Well, Caleb, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you for providing so much value. And so how do people get a hold of you? Apparently everybody wants to go work for you. So
obviously the website creativetc.io. you can email Caleb at creativetca.io, and I have calebchristopher.io if you want to invite me to speak.
Ah,
Oh.
nice.
There's an Easter egg. It's kind of a joke, so you gotta have thick skin to get through that website.
Well,
That's fantastic.
Caleb, thanks for coming on here. Ingrid, thank you for setting it up that Caleb could come on here. If anybody found any value today, let us know so we can bring Caleb back. I keep seeing, I don't even know how to say his name, Guru Dude. They just keep training. How do I get on this? This is so
I
incredible.
don't sell training right now. You get a lot of training. Go to my YouTube. I promise. You'll learn a crap ton. The guts of a transaction, not necessarily, but if you put all the pieces together, there's enough content.
There's enough content. You just got to do the digging. You got to do the work yourself.
I just negotiated somebody's salary by saying, look, would you pay me $10,000 to work for me for 3 months? And they said yes. And I said, okay, consider that your raise. This is your salary. And they're like, okay, let's do it.
Cool.
Nice.
I just pulled up your YouTube so I could get on there. So let me get it so everybody can see it, so you guys can find it on your own as well. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Let me
Caleb
unsubscribe
Christopher
really
himself.
quickly.
At Caleb
There we
Christopher
go.
himself.
So when you get on the page, you click on this white button and get it to say subscribed, and you get that beautiful.
Oh, there's me crying.
Oh,
Oh.
You're so beautiful.
Yeah,
You have hair? There's hair under your hat?
I do. Sometimes I take it off. My family sees my hair,
It's
or
just
when I
made of
cry.
people.
Oh.
Aw.
I need to update
I
your
had-
my phone.
Oh yeah, the sound. Anyway,
Caleb, thank you.
What's,
Seriously. Thank
and on
you
a
so much
sad
for
note,
coming
you
on
guys
here.
are killing me.
Ingrid, I'll let you take it away here.
Again, this is free 99. Don't forget to subscribe and like Caroline Kane's YouTube, Ingryd Hernandez, or Ingryd _ Hernandez on Instagram. By the way, we will soon be on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you get your auditory podcasts, where we have a media manager who's helping on that. So on your drive to work, where you can safely listen to us, you absolutely will be hearing from us. And so thank you so much, Caleb, for being a guest. And we look forward to having you again. And thank you for dropping so much knowledge. And have an amazing week, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Caleb. Bye.